What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to our Bible study. Leviticus 3. Really all that's been happening so far in Leviticus has been just going over procedures for different kinds of offerings. I mean, chapter 1 was about burnt offerings, chapter 2 about grain offerings, and now we're at peace offerings. So, yeah. There's, as you can tell, various different kinds of offerings that God's people had available to them, / in some circumstances needed to make. So with that being the case, especially the times when these kinds of offerings were necessary, because of that, it had to be established what different offerings needed to follow which guidelines and patterns and stuff like that. But anyway, okay. So let's dive right into this now. Leviticus chapter 3. If you present an animal from the herd as a peace offering to the Lord, it may be a male or a female, but it must have no defects. Lay your hand on the animal's head and slaughter it at the entrance of the tabernacle. Then Aaron's sons, the priests, will splatter its blood against all sides of the altar. The priest must present part of this peace offering as a special gift to the Lord. This includes all the fat around the internal organs, the 2 kidneys and the fat around them near the loins, and the long lobe of the liver. These must be removed with the kidneys, and Aaron's sons will burn them on top of the burnt offering on the wood burning on the altar. It is a special gift, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Okay, so certain parts of the animal were supposed to be set aside as a special gift to the Lord. Now, I don't know if that means that's the part that was being offered, or if that means that that's the part that was going to be saved for Aaron and the priests. Because we've seen with previous types of offerings, at least certainly with the grain offerings, that some of those were set aside. Like certain parts of those, I should say, were set aside as food for Aaron and his sons / future priests. So, given the wording, I'm not 100% sure which of those two things, whether it's the offering or the food that it's saying this is, but it seems like it's saying that, you know, the part that's being established as a special gift would be the part that's going on the altar, because right there at the end it says it's a special gift, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. So really only the fat around the internal organs, the kidneys, and the long lobe of the liver, those were the things actually being offered up on the altar. And it doesn't say what happens to the rest of the animal, but I'm guessing it in some way or another is consumed / used / just done away with for other things. I can't imagine they would waste that much of the animal, because there's still a lot left that wasn't mentioned here. So, I mean, there are some parts that might not really be useful or edible, but I imagine the rest would be used or eaten in some way. But anyway, okay. So that was for animals from the herd. Then we get to verse 6. If you present an animal from the flock as a peace offering to the Lord, it may be a male or female, but it must have no defects. If you present a sheep as your offering, bring it to the Lord, lay your hand on its head, and slaughter it in front of the tabernacle. Aaron's sons will then splatter the sheep's blood against all sides of the altar. The priest must present the fat of this peace offering as a special gift to the Lord. This includes the fat of the broad tail cut off near the backbone, all the fat around the internal organs, the 2 kidneys and the fat around them near the loins, and the long lobe of the liver. These must be removed with the kidneys, and the priest will burn them on the altar. It is a special gift of food presented to the Lord. See, now that one says a special gift of food presented to the Lord, so that makes it seem like that would be going to the priests. Because, like, God himself is not going to eat the food. But, I don't know. Anyway, I do wish in some ways the wording on that could be a little bit clearer. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the problem. Because I have come to realize over the years that one of my, I don't know if you'd call it a shortcoming, but one of the things that I am, one of the things that makes me different from a good number of other people is that I tend to not make certain assumptions that it seems like most other people would make, because they seem fairly obvious assumptions to most other people, but for some reason it doesn't always click with me. I'm not going to get into examples of that because that would just get me on a tangent, but if it seems obvious to you, please say something for, the further education of our viewers and me even, maybe. But in any case, so it didn't mention if you present a goat. Oh, it's going to get into that in the next part. Never mind. But I have also noticed that with the peace offerings, it says they can be male or female. With the previous offerings, with the burnt offerings mentioned in chapter 1, the animals had to be male. Unless maybe, I don't know if it said that for the birds, but like cattle, sheep, goats, all those, it had to be male for the burnt offerings. But this one allows for female. So, now we'll get into the part about the goats, starting with verse 12. If you present a goat as your offering, bring it to the Lord. Lay your hand on its head, and slaughter it in front of the tabernacle. Aaron's sons will then splatter the goat's blood against all sides of the altar. The priest must present part of this offering as a special gift to the Lord. This includes all the fat around the internal organs, the 2 kidneys and the fat around them near the loins, and the long lobe of the liver. These must be removed with the kidneys, and the priest will burn them on the altar. It is a special gift of food, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. All the fat belongs to the Lord. You must never eat any fat or blood. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation, wherever you live. I figured there was no sense in separating verse 17 there. BT Dub's footnote, as you can read down there, just says tent of meeting in Hebrew. Again, it's a common thing, but anyway. So pretty much all of these have very similar operations, or, you know, the ways that they are done. But I think the only difference I seem to be noticing is that, so the first one says it's a special gift, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. That was the one from the herd. The one about sheep says special gift of food presented to the Lord. And then the one about goats says it's a special gift of food, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. So, like, are we supposed to assume that all that applies to all of them? Or is it, like, slightly different things going on? Like if it's, you know, from the herd, it's just meant as a pleasing aroma. Whereas, you know, if it's a sheep, it's a gift of food and not really for the aroma. And then with a goat, it's both for some reason. Like, or is it just that, you know, they all actually have the same... Again, I really wish the wording would be a little bit clearer, but maybe... I wonder if there's some significance in, like, the Hebrew and, you know, the wording that was used there in a way it could be translated a bit differently that would make it more apparent that there's, you know, some certain function or differentiation of purpose when it's using these particular phrases. Because those two phrases show up quite a lot when going through and, you know, reading about the offerings. A lot of them mentioned, you know, offerings being a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Nowhere near as many mentioned, you know, special gift of food. But does that mean that some of them were supposed to be, like, set aside as food, possibly for Aaron and the priests, and others were not, and, like, that's just how Aaron and the priests got their food from the people in general, but, like, they wouldn't have needed to eat everything from it, or they wouldn't have needed to eat portions of every offering, thus, like, some of them aren't set aside as food in any way. Possibly that's what's going on here. Again, I'm not totally sure. If somebody knows better, please feel free to mention something somewhere, either, you know, wherever you can, even if it's on, you know, one of my social media pages or something like that. Because I'm not totally sure. I can come to my own conclusions about what that means, but I don't want to assume too much and act like I am, you know, giving official, like, educational, interpretive, you know, meanings on some of this stuff that I'm not real sure about. Anyway, okay. I guess that's all I really have to say regarding Leviticus 3. Alright, so that's going to do it for now. Just more stuff about offerings. Honestly, it seems like that's going to be a lot of at least the early parts of Leviticus. But anyway, yeah. So that's it. As always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe and click the bell to see more videos when I post them. Look down in the description for info on other social media pages and all that kind of stuff. including information on my Twitch page, which, if you want to be part of these live streams and interact with them and actually maybe have your questions included in the videos and stuff like that, those are over on Twitch. On Saturdays starting probably around 4 p.m. Central Time. If you're interested in that, just thought I would put that out there. I think that info is also in the description, but I figured I would mention it specifically as well, just to make sure that it's clear. So, yeah, otherwise, just leave comments down below with any thoughts you have. If, of course, you are watching this video or other videos like this post-live stream and want your questions answered, or at least, want to put them out there, comment section down below. Anyway, so that's it. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you for the next one. But until then, stay cool, people.